episode of Transylvaniacs, the show where two longtime friends torture themselves via Dracula adaptation.
Each episode, we unfortunately try to watch every Dracula from Dracula A till Dracula Z.
So fun stuff. If you are listening to this episode and you have not listened to the previous episode, which is part 1, go do that first, or else this will not make a ton of sense. But as you can tell by how super enthused we seem, oh boy, today we are taking a look at episodes 6 through 10 of the 2013 series Dracula, starring Jonathan Rhys Meyers, Katie McGrath, and a whole bunch of other people who did their best. They did their best. Well, kind of. Will, my sweet friend, I'm gonna tell people what you told me a mere 5 minutes ago, which was, Colleen, I don't hate very many things, comma, carrying a lot of weight in the sentence.
Yeah, you know, how long have we done this show now? Like 3 years?
It's like 3 years of this.
3 years. We've done this almost exactly 3 years. And Listen, there's some, we've watched some dumb, bad movies. We watched, Dracula in Istanbul. We watched that one with Louis Jourdan being a real creep. We watched the Dan Elliott one. We've watched some bad Draculas, but you know what? There has been stuff in all of those that I've kind of appreciated. And as much as Jourdan in particular as Drac was a real creep, everyone was doing their best. I don't have any umbrage towards the movie. I think I genuinely just hate this show and every single character in it.
Yeah, it's holy cow, this is rough. Okay, so to recap, we're gonna try to get these up very close to one another so you don't have to wait a long time between them. But last episode, we took a look at the first 5 episodes of this single season, 10 episode show, Dracula from 2013. And we had a lot of criticisms, but one of the major ones was that not a lot happened. And not only does that trend continue, but a lot of things happened that shouldn't. You know what I mean? Things do happen, but they don't matter. A lot of things happen that have nothing to do with Dracula. Not a lot happens from Dracula. And as you very aptly said, I think this show is all event planning. I think this show is all fucking event planning. I have no idea what happened with the roughly 10 hours of my life in which I consumed this media, but I am a husk. All right. The shit sucks so bad. I don't even know where to start. Will. Wow. Okay. So let's back up a little bit. We, I guess, should go through a little bit plot wise of what happens in this second half of the season. Because where we last left off, we had a complicated love triangle between Harker, Mina, and Dracula, aka Alexander Grayson, who you if you've listened to the episode know is our Dracula's drag name, stage persona, American cosplay for reasons that remain mysterious to us both.
Otherkin.
Oh, no, please don't make me think about that. Oh God. Had a rocky love triangle, but the whole impetus of this show is that Van Helsing has actually revived Dracula himself, because they have a common enemy in the Order of the Dragon, who was responsible for killing people important to them and turning Dracula into a vampire himself. Ooh, big lore reveal that nobody gives a fuck about. The second half of this show tries to bring a lot of plot threads together. Off the top of your head, can you remember literally any of them?
Okay, let's see. They plan Harker and Mina's engagement.
Yep, that takes 7 episodes.
Plan a dance. Mina plans a dance for the people in her dad's asylum.
Yep.
That's at least one episode. we get like a lot of, I think Mina and Harker break up like 3 more times.
At
3 or
least
4 more times, at least. I think Lucy has the most actual, like, Lucy's maybe got the most actual plot points going on because under the tutelage of Leathermilf, she is like told, well, why don't you get revenge on Mina for spurning you by seducing Jonathan. And then she does, and she immediately regrets it, and then she's like immediately turned into a vampire. The first and maybe actually only thing that is from the book that happens, and it happens in the end of episode 9 of 10 episodes.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. There's also like Grayson plans 2 giant exhibitions to show off his electricity, which we've already seen before. And Harker gets inducted into the Order of the Dragon for reasons that don't matter. And, you know.
Oh, Van Helsing kills some kids.
Oh, yeah. Van Helsing straight up kills some children. Yep. There's a big fight between Van Helsing and Dracula, where, you know, that the timing of which makes literally no sense, but, you know, they had to force some sort of plot to happen. And, you know, that's about it. I think you put it really, really aptly, where you said, at this point, I must ask, aside from name recognition, what is the point of this being Dracula? Because I don't think we have seen an adaptation yet that really just is public domain fan fiction, and that's fine. We intend to look at a lot of it. But all of those, like the Castlevania series, like even stuff like Blackula, like all of those exist for a reason, and that they are drawing heavily from the inspiration and taking it in a new direction. This seems completely disparate. This is running in parallel, and parallel lines do not cross. Like, I'm kind of fascinated by this show because of how much it fails in so many different directions. I kind of can't stop thinking about it, and I wish I could because it sucks so much fucking chode. I can't, like, I can't stop thinking about this. Okay, let's, oh god, this is going to be a hard one to keep on track just because I am so overwhelmed with my frothing hatred for this thing. But yeah, man. Okay, so in terms of all of the plot lines, a lot of them are not really worth talking about because they matter so little in the grand scheme of things. But I do think we should spend a little bit of time talking about Lucy. This is a tough one because we talked a little bit in the last episode about how I actually like this take on Harker because he's such a dick, and he's usually portrayed as kind of a wet noodle who we forget about after the first third of whatever adaptation we're watching. This Harker was a heel and a jerk and did a lot of things wrong, but at least he did something. I severely hate this version of Lucy. What did you think about all of this?
I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I hate every character in this show. I think I hate Renfield the least, and he's still given chump change at the end of the series.
He is. I kind of forgot about that. Fuck.
Yeah, he's like the one character that I think, you know, aside from the fact that he is working from a vampire, he's like the one character who's like interests and actions are always noble in pursuit of like in accordance with his beliefs, and he still gets like fucking killed in like a like throwaway scene.
Yeah, it felt very very dismissive of you know, what was the moral center of a show that was completely bankrupt of all of that. Yeah, so no, I also hate most people. I just think at least they did something interesting with Harker. Here's the whole thing with Lucy. As you mentioned previously, she has a lot of scenes in the back half of this show with Lady Jane, who is a self-insert, sexy leather MILF who
exists for fan service reasons. She's horrible at her job as a vampire hunter. She's not very good performance-wise. Her costuming sucks. She's a disservice to the entire show. They put her in a position, Lady Jane, I mean, that I really don't like in media, which is the like, I am the author of your misery, masterful gambit, sir, puppet master kind of shit, where she is somehow going to mess with Grayson via this very complicated scheme, which involves breaking up Mina and Harker. The way in which she does this is that she clocks Lucy as a lesbian, convinces Lucy that she should confess her love for Mina, and then when Mina, spurns her, then convinces Lucy that she should sleep with Harker as revenge. This makes no fucking sense at all, and does not matter in the grand scheme of the show, with the exception of it's the one thing that gets Lucy actually turned into a vampire at the end of episode 9 out of 10. But all of these scenes with the two of them talking made me both very sad and angry. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, the experience of watching this was really upsetting, and like, I am not easily offended by a lot of media, particularly media that's over a decade old. But this felt uniquely shitty to do to a queer character. It felt like on multiple levels, like every scene I felt like I was watching somebody be taken advantage of in a really heartbreaking way. And then when she is finally turned by Dracula, he says, and I quote, "If you're going to act like a monster, I'm going to make you one." What the fuck are we supposed to do with that? Like, that sucks, man. That whole thing just made me feel like, what was the point of introducing this dynamic between Mina and Lucy? We've seen it in other adaptations, even when it wasn't as explicit as this. But it does not age well, and it does not come across well. The stuff with Lady Jane, there's no reason she would know any of this. There's no reason why she'd think this would be an effective way to worm her way up to Grayson via Harker, via Mina, via Lucy. It's just really frustrating, and it takes up kind of an inordinate amount of time. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. Please feel free to continue on that. I felt like the whole thing was kind of gross.
I think what's galling about it is that, you do have the queer subtext between them in so much. It's there in the book. It is there in a lot of adaptations. And I think the thing that is truly repulsive about this is that it is savvy enough to realize that it is in the text, and then heinous enough to use that in the most bullshit exploitative way.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. That's a great way to phrase that. Yeah. It's it's maddening to watch. And it also, yeah, like, it's offensive not only to Lucy as a character, but it's also offensive to the Lady Jane character, who has nothing going for her anyway. But it's like, this has managed to be both like shitty to a presumably lesbian woman by, making her feel like her greatest insecurity is in fact natural, turning that on its head as a means of punishment, having her engage in like shitty, vengeful compet, and then killing her. And then it's shitty to Lady Jane too, because it's like, yes, the evil bisexual pulling the strings. It's just like, you guys were I on Tumblr at this time, which I was. I think people were too distracted by how horny they were for Katie McGrath to really have a critical eye about this, but I'm shocked that this didn't get flamed to the point where people were doxxed. You know what I mean?
100%.
That's what really sticks out to me about the back half of the show is that plot line, but I think something we also both touched on was like how kind of relentlessly bleak the last few episodes are.
Yeah, so during that second third demonstration, that third demonstration that Grayson tries to do, Order of the Dragon, like gets some people, and with like the help of Jonathan, they sabotage this. They sabotage his bullshit magnet energy machine, and in a way that it's gonna, like, you know, it's not just gonna malfunction. It's gonna be a travesty that'll like ruin Grayson's name, and so they rig it to explode. And so Harker is like, oh shit, I didn't know it was going to explode. And he tries to get people out and he tries to save Mina. And he does, but like a pretty sizable crowd of just innocent London bystanders get blown up.
Jesus Christ.
Just for like, I guess, dependent on Grayson. And it just feels like it's like supposed to be a tragedy. It's supposed to make Harker feel bad, but it's so out of proportion bad.
Yes, correct.
It goes beyond the like shitty personal betrayals that he's been that have been like his kind of bread and butter throughout the whole series, and just like to a genuine tragedy. And it is like actually alarming just how, even in a show that is this tonally inconsistent, how dark it seems.
Yeah, they really ramp it up in the last 2.5 episodes in terms of the bleakness of this whole thing. I think the last 2 has this straight up domestic terrorism courtesy of Jonathan Harker, which happens 5 fucking minutes after joining his little extremist cult. We've got Van Helsing murdering 2 children and then having the reanimated vampire corpses of those children kill their own father. We've got fucking Dracula killing Lucy for the crime of being a lesbian. We've got, like, it just, the list goes on and on. We've got Lady Jane dying. We've got Renfield dying, both of which felt unintentionally very funny as well, which is, you know, kind of a testament to the poor production values of this whole fucking thing. Renfield also, for some reason, this entire second string of episodes has been tracking down a painting of Dracula's lost love, who looks
just my God.
Like Harker. And they introduce a MacGuffin in episode 6, and it's a painting. Who fucking cares? Who cares, dude? That's just how I feel about so much of it. Is like, what's the fucking point? What's the point? None of this makes sense as a Dracula adaptation, but even if they changed the name and this was just Alexander Grayson, the vampire story, it would still suck. It is not written well. None of it matters. Everything has either no stakes or all stakes, like you said, with the explosion at the end. It feels completely out of left field. They also really crank up the gore in the last episode or 2. Mina is attacked by some members of the Order of the Dragon, and they go to straight up disfigure her with acid, which is insane. Dracula shows up and rips them to shreds, and they show it pretty graphically. It's not a good effect. It looks like shit. But we haven't seen that sort of gore previous to this. It kind of feels like they had somebody else executive produce the last few episodes. Like, I don't know what the fuck was going on here, right?
It feels like they're trying to change the show, like to try and make adjustments, because they knew it was thinking, and it felt like they were trying to adjust it to be a gorier, scarier thing than it was initially, but it doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work at all, especially because nothing happened for 5 or 6 episodes.
Yeah. Here's the thing that I think is, to me, is indicative of a lot of the issues with stakes, is that nobody aside from Renfield and Van Helsing, literally no one in the show knows that Grayson is Dracula. So the whole idea of him being the vampire threat is just not even on the table. It is like a background concern for the Order of the Dragon, but no one actually puts the pieces together. So everybody who is like going up against Grayson is going up against him as like an American industrialist, which is so much more boring.
So fucking boring. And I was thinking about that toward the end too. I'm like,
when is the reveal going to happen? And I think it happens to Lady Jane in the last 5 minutes of the show. And that's about it, man. My God, that was distressingly bad on a writing level. You talked a little bit last episode about how this went through many iterations of production and script hell. But my God, is that evident when you try to watch all of this, and it just gets worse as it goes on. I was hoping it would be able to save itself. I watched this when it came out, but it's obviously been a while. And it didn't. It just flushed itself down the toilet. It's almost impressive. I teased a little bit of this on Instagram, but I was joking that I went to the hospital to avoid watching the back half of this show. I had a medication interaction with a couple of different things, but don't fuck with Delta 8 is all I'll say there. Oh God. Yikes. Yeah, but honestly, we were supposed to watch it the next day and I was like, I'm not doing it. But that's how bad this shit is. You also said at one point, this is all just so dour and unpleasant to watch. And I'm like, yep, that is where I am with you. It's a bleak fucking mess. I can't. But we touched a little bit on the, production values of this last time, which remain poor. The color grading in this is fucking whack. And then the second half has some really egregious bad CGI. Like there's one scene in particular I think of where I think Mina is like looking in a puddle and sees the like former life reflection of herself.
Oh, yep. Oh, we both noted that. That is in both of our notes.
Looks awful. Some of the gore CGI also looks awful. Costuming remains awful. I think you mentioned that the whole thing just has a like shitty soundstage quality.
Yes, London streets do not look clearly like they're filmed on a studio backlot.
Yeah, it's bad.
And not in a charming way where it could be like a set and the artifice could be a thing. It just is like they did not do a good job.
Yep, it's just poorly done. Bad fonts, bad everything you could imagine. It sucks across the board. But what we specifically saved for this episode was talking about the performances, and there is some meat to get into here. So if you don't mind, I'll have you kind of introduce our actors going up the chain, and we'll spend a little time picking into their work in this show.
Our main cast here, again, we've got the big man up top, Jonathan Rhys-Meyers as Dracula, Jessica DeGao as Mina, Oliver Jackson Cohen as Harker, Katie McGrath as Lucy, Thomas Crushman as Van Helsing, Nonzo Nozzi as Renfield, and then Victoria Smurfit as Lady Jane Leathermilk Weatherby.
Oh man. Okay, so let's start a little bit with Victoria Smurfit. So look, it's not her fault, but she also does not do well. Jane has very little to work with. Her dialogue is corny as fuck, but I found the whole thing to be oversexed in not a fun, tacky way, in just a tacky way. Negative chemistry with everybody who's on the screen. Really bad villain delivery, but again, not in a fun way. Like if you are doing camp, I'm fine with that. This is not camp. This is community theater. Not mean?
Yeah. I feel like there's really inconsistent writing for her. Because the first episode or two really frame her as being a villain. Like she's just clearly supposed to be a bad guy. And I think as the show progresses, we are supposed to sympathize with her more. And she is supposed to be, if not a hero, then at least, a protagonist up until the point where she decides that she's going to like fuck over Lucy's life for no good reason. And at the end, she has her fight with Dracula, and it's supposed to be maybe more of a tragedy, and it doesn't work because there's no easy transition between these versions of the character.
And again, with talking about the changes as the show goes on, where you can see them kind of like scramble to salvage it. They change her costuming quite a bit as well, where it feels a little more period accurate, and her makeup is way toned down. Like the first couple episodes, she is in like tube tops with a red lip, and by the end, she's kind of in like a more Victorian, buttoned up, kind of pseudo barefaced look. Which I get what they were going for, but none of this works as a character, and she's not really good enough to handle it, unfortunately. Sorry, lady. I don't know who you are, but whatever. Next up, Nonzo Nosey is Renfield. I like this guy.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, he's my favorite character in this show, and he's maybe in a show that is filled with radical departures. I think he's one of the few that feels like a radical departure in an interesting way. Making, again, I think we talked about in the first episode, but having him, rather than be like in Dracula's thrall and being the version of Renfield we've seen so many times, having him be somebody who is working with Dracula of his own volition and for his own ends, I think is an interesting take. It adds something new to the character. It feels like a refresh of, a guy who in every movie is basically just there to like rant and drool around on the stage until he gets axed. And unfortunately, he still just gets axed.
Yep. Which is too bad. But yeah, no, he's the only charming thing about this show.
I could see, and I know we just got our like little Nicky Holt Renfield movie. I could see a version of this that is from his perspective of him as the main character, being Renfield, who's the executor to and lawyer for this version of Dracula, and centering it on him, and it being an interesting show.
Yes, there's potential.
Yeah.
And that's why it's frustrating. But no, he did a good job. He has a very kind of like gentle giant energy about him, which I'm always a sucker for. All right. Thomas Kretschmann as Van Helsing. Am I correct that he has been a Van Helsing before, or did I make that up?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I don't...
Or was he... Am I crazy? I'll look this up. All right, you talk about if he was remotely good or not while I...
No, because I hate this version of Van Helsing.
No, he was not good.
No. He's in Blade. He's in Blade 2, if that might be...
That might actually be what I'm thinking of.
That might be what you're thinking of here.
No, so he's in Dracula 3D. He's in Dracula 3D.
Oh, shit. Dracula. Okay. Oh, okay.
I'm not crazy. Okay, yeah. Sorry. I'm like, this guy has definitely done Dracula duty before.
The year before, too, man.
I know. Rough, right?
Oh, God.
But yeah, please tear into it.
Okay. Here's my big frustration with him in this role is that, he goes through almost the opposite wackadoo character arc of Lady Jane Weatherby, in that he starts out with potentially noble intentions, and by the end he is like, literally kidnapping and killing children.
God, Jesus Christ.
And I think the thing is, and it's not done as like a tragic fall of a noble man. It is just played as like, this guy is like always been kind of an asshole, and now the chips are off the table because his magnet plan didn't work. And that's the thing that drives me insane, is that there's a point earlier where like Dracula starts like being like, well, I guess I'm just gonna kill these guys as Dracula because it seems like my magnet energy thing is not really panning out, and he gets like berated by Van Helsing for this, and I'm like, why Dr. Van Helsing, did you go through all of this trouble of finding this coffin, sacrificing a dude to resurrect resurrect Dracula, to not have him kill people as Dracula.
Right.
Why did your plan was to resurrect this vampire so he could enact an incredibly convoluted scheme about alternative energies?
It's so insane to say when you think about it like that. But yeah, that's exactly what's happening. He was like, I've unleashed this beast who is all powerful. Now sit there and do a bad American accent. Like, oh, it's such a fucking waste, man. And like, Gretschman is also not good. All of his deliveries exceedingly flat. He is absolutely charmless and unsympathetic, even when you think he's supposed to be a good guy. They constantly play that flashback of his kids getting like ripped away from him, and I didn't give a fuck. I didn't care at all, and I'm very susceptible to that sort of thing. It was just like, wow, yeah, this guy who is, shown no empathy whatsoever and has straight up like murdered multiple people with a hammer for some reason this show. Yep. Feel real bad.
But I'm gonna be real mean. Everything about his persona and his performance, it feels like they just like went to the store and bought like the Kirkland value brand version of Mads Mikkelsen.
No, you're right, and you're allowed to say it. You're right, and you're allowed to say it. God, what a fucking mess. All right. Katie McGrath. Oh, sweet Katie McGrath.
Oh.
So here's the thing. I love Katie McGrath because I watched Merlin when it came out when I was, 18 and 19 and gay and stupid. Merlin is also horrible. We should watch it someday. And she was great in that because she brought this very intense kind of like aristocratic energy with an undercurrent of crazy. Like, she played Morgana and she was always very collected and very high society, but you could tell there was something underneath that was not fucking normal, and that turned out to be true. It is frustrating to see Lucy written in this way, and it's frustrating to see her have to do like shitty and desperate and sad. Like, she was sad to watch, but in an annoying way. Like, the kind of pity that isn't good. You know what I mean? And that sucks because I know that she is a capable actress. And in the 3.5 minutes we get of her as a vampire, it was monumentally more interesting than a single fucking scene she had in this entire show. That sucks. It was annoying. She was annoying to watch. I think they completely fumbled the bag there,
I feel like Katie McGrath cannot catch a break. I feel like
no, she can't.
She was also, because I just looked at, because like I have not watched Merlin, but I looked her up. She's also like the woman in Jurassic World. I don't know if you've seen any of these Jurassic World movies, but she's like a character who plays like a kind of like inattentive millennial nanny who gets like super like pointedly overkilled at the end of that movie for like no reason other than she's on her phone, I guess.
Yeah. I actually specifically recall our friend and former podcast guest, Chris Melville, complaining about that.
Yes.
As he should.
Yeah, justice for Katie McGrath. I will avenge you someday. Watch Merlin if you want to experience some of the worst impulses of the BBC in 2009.
Okay. Oliver Jackson Cohen as Harker. He's the most technically competent actor in this show by a mile. Harker sucks in this. He is unpleasant to watch. He is a villain of the highest degree. Jackson Cohen did a great job. I think he was later in Hill House, maybe like 2 or 3 years later.
Oh my god! That is him. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he's got chops. He's phenomenal. And I think he was the most realistic and convincing, even considering his plot line was, I am a social climbing cheater who becomes a terrorist. Which is insane. But he, the motivation doesn't make sense in terms of the writing, but he did a really good job. He seemed genuinely kind of tortured with his interactions with Mina, especially after his infidelity with Lucy. He's got kind of like a smarmy shithead energy about him that, again, sucks to watch, and it doesn't make it a fun show, but he does a great job.
He feels like he's like the one character that is who wants you to hate him on purpose.
Yes.
Like he's the, like I've said, I think at least 3 times, I hate everyone in the show more or less, but he's the only one who's like doing it on purpose. So good for you for like doing your job. He understood the assignment.
And that's, excuse me. Yep, that's that on that front. Then we get to Jessica DeGao as Mina Murray. I'm going to let you start with this one.
I think as we've seen, right, Mina is a tough character. She's like the central character in Dracula. And like, as we've talked about, I think you talked about in the last episode, like Mina is key to Dracula working. She is really the protagonist of any rightful adaptation. And I think the challenge is finding a way to is balancing out how she's going to be in the world. Does she represent a classic British femininity? Is she a modern woman? And this one really does a pretty poor job of trying to balance both of those impulses. She is, because they have her, she's a medical student, but it also, I don't know. It's not that I don't buy her as a medical student. I feel like they don't give her enough substance and enough background as a medical student, or really follow her enough in her journey as a student to really make it work. It is there to kind of it exists as a framework for her instead of being anything of substance.
Totally. And I think the first couple episodes, they really hammer on I'm going to do this even though the, odds are against me. Her first breakup of 17 with Jonathan is where he says she'll drop this medical school thing real quick and be a housewife. And that's a huge moment for her. And then they don't really revisit that for the rest of the show. And then in episode 7, she's like, my mom died and I want to cure death. And then they never talk about that ever again. So it's just again, a lot of the failures of the acting in this show come down to really poor moment-to-moment character writing as well as big picture character writing. But DeGao, for me, had no spark to her. I found that she was just kind of reacting to things that happened as opposed to driving any of the scenes herself. In kind of a milquetoast way. This is niche, but if any of you did a BFA or were in acting school, this is the girl where you watch her and you're like, hey, why the fuck are you here? Why are you trying to do this? Because you don't make a lot of sense as an actor. You look very average, which can come in handy, but do you actually care? I don't know if anybody's going to know what I'm talking about, but there is always one girl who is always brunette and always as fucking milquetoast as it gets, and it's baffling. But that's the energy I got from her in this. Sorry, girl, you didn't have a lot to work with, but you also didn't give a lot to it.
It kind of has for me the an Anne Veal from Arrested Development, where it's so much of the plot revolves around her, and people are committing murders for her, blowing up a small London neighborhood for her. And again, it's for her?
Who? Her?
Okay. This absolute vacuum comparison. Of charisma?
Yes. Yep, that's exactly it. You're so right, King. Holy cow. All right, and now we get to the big bad himself. Jonathan Rhys Meyers is Dracula. Oh man,
as evidenced by the fact that I'm laughing. Will, I'm gonna let you rip on this one first. You take it, bud. Take the wheel, Jesus.
You know, we talked a lot in the last episode about how he gives close-up magician energy. And then, like, I think in episode 6, he literally does close-up magic.
He was crushing. I can't believe that happened like 40 seconds after we made that joke. Oh, man. Sorry, keep going.
Oh, brother. Oh, they've never wanted a character to be sexier and to be in actuality so lame.
Yep.
So lame.
It's baffling to watch because this is very clearly a vanity project, right? Because Rice Myers has a production credit on this. He had just come off of The Tudors, where he was kind of, the sex symbol of sex symbols. But it's 5 years later, and, death comes for us all, bud. They give him the worst goatee of all time, a lot of suits that don't fit, really, really bad makeup, like noticeably bad makeup, and still are under the impression that he has this, intense sexual energy. Not even close. It is repulsive. And his performance is bad on levels I cannot even begin to describe. From a technical standpoint, horrible American accent. Awful. Dog shit. Embarrassingly bad. I'm trying to think of examples, but like at one point he was like, oh God, he says something that actually made me laugh out loud, where he's talking to Jane, I think, and he's like, I live in the darkness. Like this sort of, which I a straight up Dark Knight moment. His delivery is unintentionally comical in almost every scene he's in. He does a lot of yelling for no reason, a lot of like throwing shit for no reason. The whole thing just like reeks of scenery chewing, and again, not in a way that's fun. It is cringe. It is unbearable to witness, okay? I think this is the bottom of our Dracula ranking in every conceivable way. He's worse than Louis Jourdan. He's worse than the poor Turkish guy they got for Dracula Istanbul'da by a mile, because he's trying so fucking hard. You know what I mean? It is the gap of, how much you care about a thing versus how good you are at it. And it is sometimes that's intoxicating to watch in a like nostalgia critics the wall type of way, but this is not. This is simply embarrassing.
I think there are line readings that to me just feel like they make my skin crawl.
Yes. And part of that is because it comes across completely unnaturally due to the bad accent. But it's like they gave him an erotic novel that wasn't written very well, but instead of committing to the bit, he takes it seriously without a trace of irony or self-awareness, and then reads it poorly. It's really confusing because there's like levels to bad of this. And, if I can find a compilation of like some of the corniest, hokiest shit from this on YouTube, I'll link it in the description of this episode, because it kind of has to be seen to be believed. It's not The Room, because The Room at least has turned the corner to become charming, but it is baffling in a similar way, where I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I know what it is. It's Showgirls. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
Because Showgirls takes itself so deadly seriously, and that's why it's bad. This is the same way. Showgirls has become fun because everybody has acknowledged that it was bad, but I think some of that comes with time, and at least Showgirls had like some energy to it. This was a fucking slog. This was a slog.
But it's got it's adjacent to fucking Kyle MacLachlan's performance in that, where it's like completely charmless, smarmy, very convinced that it's sexy. But I have forgiven Kyle. I will not forgive Jonathan.
There are, there are multiple instances in this show where Dracula's having sex, and I still do not buy that this version of Dracula has had sex.
Yes, and that is, again, showgirls. Horny in a way that does not make sense. It is purely mechanical. Like, I think I actually made a note about this that I'm going to find because I made myself laugh with it. But God, I don't know how something can be so horny and so boring at the same time. This is the fairy smut of vampire television. You know what I mean? Like, this is mainstream, completely unsensual shit. There's no chemistry between anyone. And a lot of that is due to the fact that Rice Myers seems to be convinced that he's the hottest shit alive. Fuck's sake, dude. What a mess this was. Yeah, man, that was the performances, and I think that was a pretty big bulk of what we wanted to talk about, because we spent a lot of time, the last episode discussing some of the issues with getting the show made and why does it look like that. But man, this was, I'm going to read your quote here because I think it really encapsulates this entire thing. What a remarkably charmless viewing experience. You're real for that. You're real for that. What a mess. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on in terms of like little bits and pieces, like things that you wanted to point out that we didn't have anywhere else to touch on? We obviously know that this show was not reviewed particularly well, as evidenced by the fact that it got canceled after one season. But yeah, is there anything that you're feeling that you haven't hit on that you want to?
I would say that it feels like, my last thing is, it feels like it is maybe the warning. It is like the cautionary tale about the pitfalls of doing what I guess, I will call, very aptly enough, surf Dracula storytelling.
Yes. Yes.
Which I think we have read this tweet on this very tweet on the show at some point, but there's that famous tweet that says, back in the day, if you did a show called Surf Dracula, you'd see that full surfing every week in the new adventures. But in the streaming era, the entire first season got to be a long-ass flashback about how he got the surfboard until you finally get to see him surf for 5 minutes in the finale. And thank you, Topher Florence, for that tweet, because I think that describes this show perfectly. It is that like the horrible, that horrible decompressed storytelling that particularly took root after Casino Royale and Batman Begins came out, where you spend so much of the series setting up the things that people know and love, in the idea that it'll tantalize, and when you'll finally, at the end of it, you'll have all the pieces set to have the actual thing that people care about happen. And in 2005, 2006, that was still very novel. Casino Royale and Batman Begins are still both great, well-written, wonderfully directed movies. And this is none of that. It bowdlerizes all of the characters in Dracula and takes them to really horrible places. And then it has the gall in the last episode to try and set up the actual Dracula story.
Yeah, that's infuriating. But no, you're so right about the Surf Dracula comparison and the contemporary focus on backstory, particularly with villains. I feel like this was also kind of the beginning of the MCU insanity, where like everybody needs their own story in such a way where it distracts from the story. and the kind of mid 2010s villain fetish shit that everybody was on.
Oh, I definitely there was definitely a part in one of those episodes where they like I think have a body under a sheet that gets revealed, and at first I knew they're in like expanded universe there. I'm like, are they gonna tease Frankenstein in this? Please, for the love of God.
Yes. Please, fuck's sake.
Don't do this.
Do not do this right now. You do not have the capability for it.
Yeah. Thankfully it did not, but I was very scared for like a couple minutes.
Totally. Yeah. It has a lot of overlap with BBC Sherlock too, in terms of like the worst impulses of the era. Just kind of this grand mastermind shit. Like I said before, I am the architect of your misery, which is a trope I hate so intensely because it does no actual work and just says, well, they know everything because they're really smart, and then proceed not to show us why. You know, they spend a lot of time talking about how Grayson is like a ruthless and cunning businessman, and I'm like, he's not. He's straight up just killing people. So many different people in the order by the time the show finishes, and all people talk about is his like shrewd business tactics. I'm like, what the fuck are you guys on? This is bizarre. Like, again, Lady Jane being bad at her job, the Order being bad at their job. They keep bringing in like one-off characters like seers and shit, and then never talking about them again. They did actually something that was hilarious. They have an Italian character from the fucking Vatican in the last episode who like shows up wearing what looks to be the Hamburglar's outfit.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
And then he's like got some sort of relic from the Vatican being like, this is the blood of Christ. It helps.
Oh my God, yes.
Vampires. Like, we don't need lore. It's the last episode. Please, just let anything happen that matters. It's like pulling out my fucking eyelashes watching this shit. Jesus Christ. And then just like a lot of, you know, side characters showing up for no reason. Mina's dad, who should have been Seward. Lucy's mom, who inexplicably appears in episode 8 to, you know, die in the beginning of 10. Just frustrating stuff. We have a lot of plots in a Monster of the Week way that take up an entire episode's worth of script but have no further implications, like the whole thing with Harker like slandering a general, but it wasn't actually slander because the woman who gave him the information was a hired actress for it. Is like convoluted crap that doesn't fucking matter.
I completely forgot about that plot line.
Yeah, as you should, because it was never, you know, it was referenced again once when I think Mina is like, you're a bad guy, Harker. And at that point, we're like, we know he cheated on you with your gay best friend and is about to blow up a whole bunch of civilians. Oh, God. At one point, they play Hall of the Mountain King. Yeah, that was funny. Yep. Wow, what a mess this was. But thank you for going on this horrible, horrible journey with me. At least it feels kind of like we've kind of hit the nadir of this show. So maybe we can watch something that's bad in a fun way, or dare I say good, soon.
Oh my God, fingers crossed, my friend.
Fingers crossed. I'm gonna pick something from your notes real quick. You had a lot of really good ones. But just some straight bangers from Will Standish in this episode. But I'm going to go with, he is what a lame 14-year-old boy thinks a cool man is like. Because that is hitting the nail on the head. That is the energy that Rice Myers brought to this fucking performance. Jesus God.
Mine actually feels like it is tied to that same lame 14-year-old, because my note from you is the phrase forced steampunkification.
Yeah, that's the whole aesthetic of this. It's all green and brown and ugly and like fake industrial. This whole thing feels like I went to a convention for Welcome to Night Vale. It has DashCon aura. It's embarrassing.
Man.
It's embarrassing.
Oh, that's brutal.
It is brutal. It's this is what all the steam powered giraffe kids were watching. I don't think it was actually. They were watching shit that was somehow worse. But yeah, I'm not wrong.
But this is a drill tweet. Chief, Dracula is in our sight. Take the shot. Sniper. I can't, sir. I'm woke. Me, watching through binoculars. He's woke. He won't do it. That's it. That's the tweet.
Yep, man.
Yep. Thank you, Drill, for that one.
A legend.
But a legend. We've got a couple things next on the docket. It is getting to be spooky season, so we'll try to get some more episodes out here for you soon. But thank you all very much for joining us, and I cannot not recommend this show enough.
Yeah, I think if you got a chance, you really should just like look at your window for 10 hours. That would be you take a nice walk. That's my recommendation.
You're right about that. And while you're staring out the window, have a good one. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.